Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. Once again, for those who are just joining, if you can please put your name and the agency in the chat box. I see a lot of familiar faces and names, so it's good to see you all, and then some unfamiliar faces, so welcome. My name is Delisa Young. I'm the manager of data and evaluation with LA Best Babies Network. I oversee the database and reporting activities for the Stronger Families database, which houses many of our home HFA, Healthy Families America, and Parents as Teachers, as well as Welcome Baby home visiting models funded through First 5LA, and many of those are also funded through the Department of Public Health, DPSS. And I will introduce my collaborating partner on this project, Monique. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Monique Pedraza, and yes, I recognize a lot of familiar faces and names. I'm so grateful to be back and working on this project with Delisa. It's so nice to be here. I do, for those of you that don't know me, I have experience working with home visitation. I was a lead supervisor with a partnering agency. I mean, is it okay that I say, I don't know. What are the rules? What are the rules here? I was with ABPH for nearly 7 years. So I'm so grateful to be back. We did move across this country, but yes, raising children, raising chickens, and here I am. So let's go ahead and get started.
Great, thank you, Monique. I'm gonna make sure that my slideshow is it's showing correctly. Is that better? Okay, thank you. So we are recording this just in case. I know it's the holiday season, so many are not able to join us. And so we will be sending out this PowerPoint presentation, the recording, so that others who are not able to join, they'll get to see what we're doing and what we're working on. And hopefully everyone is on board with this project. Just some context. Well, LABBN, we have a contract with the Department of Public Health and LA County to lead and carry out this data integration project. We have Monique on board. She's a collaborating partner to assist with this work. And we know there are multiple home visiting models in LA County. There's multiple funders, and that means there's multiple data systems as well. So that means that the data is siloed. So when we look at home visiting as a system in LA County, we want to be able to answer the question, how are we doing as a home visiting system? What's working well? Are there certain groups that are being left out? How can we leverage successful outcomes for more funding and expansion of home visiting programs? And the best way to be able to do that is to use data, to have use data for driving those decisions. And so that's kind of where this project is born, to be able to assess home visiting as a system in LA County and make sure that we're meeting the needs of the community. And so we're tasked with this project, and that's just some context. So we'll go ahead and dive into the presentation, and I'll turn it over to Monique.
Thank you, Delisa. So before we get started, we're going to actually be utilizing a Jamboard because we know that questions may arise while we're presenting, and we want to be sure to give everybody a voice to be able to jot down your thoughts, your questions, what you're excited about. So we created a Jamboard, and we're just asking if you could please use the sticky note option. So I'm going to drop that into the chat now. So what on the first slide is going to be what we like, are most excited about for this project. That's slide 1 of the Jamboard. What concerns we may have about this project, which is slide 2, and then any questions that we should ponder, which would be slide 3 of the Jamboard, excuse me. As we are in the discovery phase of this project and gather information, this will help us to hear your thoughts. We will answer each Jamboard sticky note accordingly and share with the recording of this presentation afterward. So thank you, Delisa, for that. Okay, so let's dive in. What is the purpose of this project? We want to develop an integrated data system for LA County home visiting programs with the aim of improving the current home visiting system and supporting home visiting as a unified system. And some benefits of a data repository to home visiting systems are to track and identify needs for different geographical areas and demographic groups of actual or potential clients, to reduce or eliminate duplication of services and gaps in service, to meet program-specific and system-wide reporting needs simultaneously, to identify program factors that promote client engagement or disengagement, to expand and diversification of home visiting, and then the improved outcomes for families.
Great, thank you, Monique. This is really going to be a short presentation. We really want to gather your feedback, so please utilize the Jamboard. So I wanted to speak to just the strength of having a centralized data system. We know that with the multiple home visiting models and multiple funders, we don't have a centralized data system within LA County. However, as I mentioned, the First 5 LA, they fund the Stronger Families database. So that's my role, is to oversee the database and reporting activities. So I can speak to the benefits of having multiple models on one data system. And I think this will translate into the benefits of having a data lake, is what we call it, a repository. And essentially, if I can just describe what a data lake is, if you can imagine like multiple streams like funneling into this lake, that's really what we're talking about, is having these different data systems funnel their data into one central place, a repository or a data lake. And so, so back to kind of the benefits of having a centralized data system and what we're able to do with First 5 LA. So we do have 3 home visiting models that utilize the Stronger Families database. So that includes Healthy Families America, parents as teachers. We have most of the sites using that. Some are using Penelope now. And then we have our Welcome Baby programs on the Stronger Families database. And so data is entered into the Stronger Families database, and then it's funneled into Tableau, which is a data visualization platform. And that allows for my organization, LAPBN, to meet multiple stakeholder reporting needs. So we are able to meet agency-specific needs. So there are sometimes senior leadership at various agencies want to report on certain variables. So we're able to create those reports just for the agency. Also, the funders have specific report needs. We're able to meet that need. And then the HV model report. So Healthy Families America, for example, they have a site profile report. They have their standards. We're able to house all of that in Tableau. And then for parents as teachers, they have the what's it called, the APR report, affiliate performance report, I think is what it's called. So we're able to create those reports, so meeting multiple stakeholder needs. So that's one of the benefits of having a centralized database. Also, data and outcomes can be viewed at the site level and at a network level, which allows for identifying CQI projects, gaps in services, enrollment and retention patterns disaggregated by variables such as race, ethnicity, sharing of best practices and or strategies of high-performing provider sites, and then identifying training needs. So if there are needs for refreshers on, let's say, a PHQ screener and such. So because we have this centralized data system and we can look at data across models, we can see how are we doing as a family strengthening network. So more broadly, and then we can look at specific sites, and then we can see, is there a general, are there trends across sites? Are there specific site needs, how are we doing as a whole? So this really speaks to the advantage of having a centralized data system. And so I'm hoping getting a sense of what a data lake or repository would yield. And so I think the value of a centralized data system is evident. However, we know it will be very challenging to get all providers on one centralized data system. So the next best thing is to create a data repository or data lake. I'm using those interchangeably, they're essentially the same thing. So regardless of the system, and that data can be funneled into a repository to yield reports. And so the goal is to obtain the same benefits of having a centralized data system. All right, I'm going to turn it back over to Monique.
Thank you, Delisa. And we did have a question in the chat box there about sharing the PowerPoint. So I know we're sharing the recording, but I'll go ahead and continue on with the presentation. Okay, so expectation from providers and stakeholders. So this is what we all want to know, right? Like, so what do we need to do? What are the expectations from us? And I still talk with my hands, see? I still do this. All right, so we're going to agree to have our data integrated into the data repository, interested parties to participate in a work group. So that's where we're going to share the data needs, discuss aligning data definitions, and collaborate with other stakeholders to determine shared outcomes and ways to leverage a data repository. And how do we accomplish this? So here's some steps. We will identify home visiting providers in LA County who are interested in participating in a shared data system. Define the steps required to execute a plan for integration across current home visiting data platforms to create a unified data repository. Meet with data system representatives to identify needed data agreements / authorizations, system functionality for integration, and other needs. Perform a data crosswalk of data being collected across providers, defining data elements and identifying similarities and gaps, and then convene a user group to discuss data needs and definitions. Some final products and future steps. We want to complete, and when I say we, it's me. And Delisa and this, team that we are working with together. Complete a conceptual and technical paper that outlines the steps to implement a data lake / repository. Write a grant to solicit funding to carry out the implementation phase of the project and solicit vendors to build the data repository. Okay. Wasn't that quick? We know it's a very full time and right now for everybody. And so I hope that we were utilizing the Jamboard. We could open it up for any questions that we are able to answer in real time. But if you want to unmute or type it in the chat box, we could open it up for some questions.
This is Karen.
Hi, Karen.
Hello. Nice to see your little bow on your head, Monique.
Glittery too.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to know if I'm understanding right. So this is talking about something different than the Stronger Families database, like something where maybe information from the Stronger Family database would go to, as well as other like current database systems, like Delisa mentioned, Pat is using, a lot of them are using Penelope. So it's something in addition to the Stronger Families database?
Yeah, that's correct. So there would be no need for any providers or agencies to enter the data into any other system, but we would be working with the database vendors to export data that's already entered into the whatever current data systems being utilized into this data lake repository. There would be no burden, anything on home visitors on the sites, but we'd be working with the database vendors to export that data.
Okay, and is it outside of LA County or is it just like all of us that have been on all the leads meetings and the current first 5 grantees, and or is it additional people also?
We are looking at the home visiting models in general in LA County. So outside of the Stronger Families database. So we have HFA, PAT, there's other models, Healthy Start, partnerships for families, early Head Start. The
Okay.
idea is to really get everyone on board. Yes.
Okay. That because when you guys first sent the email, I was like, Stronger Families was already that until some of the funders made some of the PAT people use Penelope. So if it was just us, that didn't make a lot of sense to me, but that's why I'm asking the question. So it's more than the people that were originally in Stronger Families. It's all the other providers in the county that do home visiting, not just those that I have typically worked with. So, okay.
Yes, exactly. 'Cause, yeah, you're part of like the Family Strengthening Network, and we do have a centralized database. So we are seeing the value of that, but we want to absolutely expand it to home visiting in LA County and other funders as well.
Okay.
So yeah,
Thank you.
great question. That's exactly why we're meeting today, to address questions and provide clarity. So thank you, Karen. I see Rocio's hand up.
Hi, good morning, Monique. It's so great to see you. I'll turn on my camera. I don't have my professional background on, but I'll turn on my camera so I can say hi.
Hi, Rocio.
It's so great to see you. I was like, wait, I recognize that
That's
face.
me.
So my question is for those of us who did have to switch to Penelope, like, what does it actually mean? Like, what do we need to do? Do we need to sign a contract? So like, what are the actual next steps? And then a part 2 is, will any of that information be funneled back into Stronger Families so we can have one place where we can collect information for our APR?
Yeah, that's a good question. As far as so we're in the discovery phase. So there's some questions that we're not going to be able to answer today. So we do want you to use the Jamboard so that we're collecting all of that information. As far as agreements or what to sign, we are meeting with the database vendors, and we're going to bring on a technical consultant as well to help sort that out. So we are figuring out what agreements need to take place, and who's responsible for that. As far as data being funneled back into the Stronger Families database, that's not the design of this project. It would essentially be exporting data from the data systems into this repository, but not going the other way as well.
Billy, so there's a question in the chat. Vinette, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. I'm so sorry if did I pronounce it right?
Yes, thanks.
Vinette, hi.
Hi. So yeah, I just wanted some clarification. So are we agreeing, for example, if we're using Stronger Families, are we agreeing to leave Stronger Families and utilize this other platform, or are we agreeing to continue using whatever platform we're using, but allowing our data to be pulled to a different platform?
Yeah, the data that will not be leaving the Stronger Families database or any other data system. So whatever the current data system that's being utilized, it's business as usual. It will just be that data, whatever data we decide to export to the data repository, then the database vendors will be assisting in that process. So each entity, each agency will not have to do anything differently with their current system.
Okay, got it. Thanks, Lisa.
Great, you're welcome. I see Charlene. I'm not sure, Rosie, if your hand is still up or if there was another question.
No, sorry. I'll take it down. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, sure. I see Charlene's hand, and then I'll go to the chat box too.
Great. Thanks, Lisa. Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to provide some context in terms of the data work group for the consortium that we're already doing a version of this, just basically in paper pen format, or I should say it's a Excel format. So the dream of this was to make it a lake where it was a way more centralized way of collecting information. For those who may not know, for example, through the data work group right now, we collect this information through Tableau. You don't have to put, you as an HFA patent welcome baby don't necessarily do anything different, because LABBN creates those reports for you and automatically funnels it to the larger consortium work group. So we use aggregate data to then present these reports, which all those reports you can always find on the data-driven webpage for the consortium. But this was, I think I'd like to say that with the successes of the data work group and how much those reports are being used, county saw it as an opportunity of like, how do we make this an easier process and get more people on board? So I didn't know this either, but it's called a data lake because the idea is you got all the data in the middle and then the streams, which are the models, fill into the lake. So that's where some of this language comes from. But it is ultimately a way to show collective impact in the county and be able to say that this is where home visiting is having an impact, or maybe not, or certain models do better with XYZ compared to ABC because they have different outcomes. So we started doing that in in an Excel format in the data work group, but needed a more standardized platform, a way to do it just across the county in an easier way.
Great, thank you for that, Charlene. Okay, we have Maria and then Philip.
Hi, Delisa. I came in on a little late, so I'm
Hi.
sorry if I missed it. Who becomes the owner of the repository?
Those are still some details that we're working out. So we're in the discovery phase, and that's being worked out. So once we gather information during this phase, there'll be a conceptual and a technical paper, and from that there will be a grant written to solicit more funding to actually implement the data lake, and then I think there'll be like a bid for vendors to actually build it. So those are some things that we're still working out and gathering information for.
Got it. Thanks.
You're welcome. Philip.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that one of the challenges we face in the data subgroup is that there are different definitions of the data across models, and one of the things that would be nice to come from this is if the guardians of the lake, after we show the benefits of this, if they could exert some of their influence in standardizing some of the data collection and saying, look, 70%, we have good reason to collect it this way because this is the standard in the field. If they may have an influence on other funders to standardize actually the data so that we could really do better comparisons.
I love that you said that's part of the process as well. And those are some of the things that we'll be discussing in a work group, as we do want to hear exactly that, what needs to be standardized. And I did meet with Charlene just to see what the consortium data work group has already done. So I think we have a good base there, but above and beyond that, like what variables haven't been agreed upon yet, and how important are those variables? Is it time to standardize how we're collecting data? And I think this work group will help us get there. So I will make a plug as well. Like anyone interested in joining the work group, please reach out to Monique, and we can send more details about that. But that's great. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, I'm going to go to the chat box. So yes, we'll share the PowerPoint as well as this recording. And then is the Jamboard working now?
Yes, I was
think
just
it
going
was
to
in-
say, thank you,
okay.
Tiara. It's been a minute. Thank you for pointing that out.
Great, and then I see, okay, there was a private message about what type of data will be transported. So that's something that we're going to work through with the data work group as well. We know that there's a lot of data. There's a lot of data out there. We don't need everything. So we want to be able to identify what variables are important. And that's something that we'll work out with the work group, the work group that we're forming. And anticipated launch date. So the discovery phase, this ends at the end of the fiscal year, so June 2023. And then from there, a grant will be written to solicit funding to actually carry out the implementation. And so I'm not quite certain about the timeline for that just yet, but the discovery phase at least is at the end of the fiscal year. So we want to, take our time and make sure that we're approaching this project correctly and gathering all the feedback and considerations, and then implementation will come later.
Thank you, Charlene,
Okay,
for
thanks,
sharing
Charlene, for
that.
sharing. Okay, are there any other questions? We will certainly utilize the Jamboard and take feedback so that we are considering everything for this project and addressing any concerns. Okay, I'm not seeing anything else in the chat box. So once again, if you're interested in joining a work group to talk about, and as Monique had mentioned, maybe I can go back a few slides. So the work group would be really like, what are the data needs? We want to standardize the variables that we're collecting. And like I said, we don't need all of the data, but what's important. How discussing aligning data definitions, like those who have a good sense of what is important, what's important for the field. And then those interested in collaborating with others to determine those shared outcomes. To Philip's point, and what should we be focusing on? What do we need to standardize? We're not there yet. And then, how do we leverage this data lake for future funding or other opportunities? So that's what the work group will focus on.
Just one here.
You're not sure?
Not sure. I want to make sure.
So once again, there's our contact information.
So I want to just make sure it says number.
Okay. Yeah, there's our contact information. So as you're pondering this and any questions that come up that didn't make it to the Jamboard or that were not addressed here, then please do not hesitate to reach out to us. And as we look at the Jamboard and kind of gather that information, we'll determine if another meeting like this is necessary with the larger group stakeholders. If not, then we will have our meetings with the work group. So if you're interested or you want someone from your team represented there, then that would be the next step. Right now, there's nothing for you to do as an agency. We just wanted to make sure you're aware of this project, and those who want to be more involved, then there's an opportunity to join the work group. Otherwise, there's nothing else to do, but we'll keep you updated on our progress with this. Okay, if nothing else, thank you all very much for your time. Happy holidays. Any last words from you, Monique?
Yeah, I just thank you for joining. Again, we know that this is a very busy time for everybody, so we truly appreciate you hopping on. And please email me if you are interested in joining the work group. I am super excited to be working with everybody again. Happy holidays, and we will be in touch. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.